Good evening. Thank you for being with us. In compliance with Chapter 551, Open Meetings of the Texas Government Code, I call to order an information session of the Board of Trustees of the Austin Independent School District for Thursday, March 12th, 2026 at 6:04 p.m. A quorum of the board is physically present at Austin ISD Central Office to conduct this meeting. This meeting is being broadcast on cable channel 22 through Spectrum, Astound Broadband, and on channel 99 through AT&T Uverse. Closed captioning in English is available on these platforms for individuals who are deaf or hard of hearing. Welcome and thank you for joining us. Up first is an opportunity for the public to share comments with the board. This time allows speakers to comment publicly on any topic of their choosing directly to the school board. We have time for up to 60 speakers. And the district also provides time during our regular voting meetings of the board to hear from the public about agenda items for consideration and vote. This is an opportunity for the board to take part in listening to our community. While we wish we could respond or provide feedback, the Texas Open Meetings Act does not authorize a board to discuss or act on comments or complaints from members of the public if the subject is not on a meeting agenda. Members of the public wishing to participate in the public testimony portion of our meeting called a dedicated Austin ISD phone line in advance of the meeting to sign up to speak in person or to audio record their remarks. Tonight we have 7 people who signed up to speak in person, and we have 53 people who left a recorded message. We'll begin with our in-person testimony. To provide as many opportunities for input as possible, each speaker will be allotted 1 minute. No substitutions or yielding of time to others is permitted. Callers who signed up to speak in person will be invited to come to the microphone when your name is called. And as you come to the microphone, please press the button to turn it on. You'll see a light, and when the buzzer sounds, please make your final thought in 1 sentence. We also ask that whether you come to give a complaint or praise, please reference any staff member by position or abbreviated last name. And we ask that all audience members, whether speaking or not, please show respect for others at all times. Our first 4 in-person speakers are Natalie Fontenot, Bree Seaman, Tanner Van Essen, and Barbara Spears Corbett.
Good evening. My name is Natalie Fontenot, and I am a teacher from Aikens High School. I am here to support a student that I have in a class called Austin Core. It's the local government practicum, and they're working on civics fair projects. This particular project that the student is working on is to increase the accessibility of period products in our restrooms. She'll elaborate on her research and the project that they have completed so far. Thank you.
Good evening, Austin ISD School Board Trustees. I'm Bree Seaman, a senior from Aikens Early College High School, working on a project called Flow Forward to provide more accessible menstrual products throughout schools in AISD. In 2022, AISD issued a press release saying that $85,000 was budgeted to provide dispensers and free menstrual products, depending on student usage. The dispensers exist, but are not being used on our campus. In response, Flow Forward created small boxes of menstrual products for students to freely use. We have found through our campus pilot project and research that there is still a high demand for menstrual products. We have conducted period product donation drives, visited middle school campus to address period stigma, and received a mini grant from our PTSA and spoken with our campus administration, who is supportive of our efforts. We plan to put the existing dispensers to use and supply a variety of products available for students in our restrooms. Ultimately, we are asking the school board of AISD to renew its commitment to providing free and accessible menstrual products for students.
Someday I'm going to get this. In light of recent documents, I'm deeply concerned with the integrity of the process and the integrity of AISD leadership. What these records show is a culture of disrespect, limited transparency, and little accountability in decisions that affect real children, real families, and communities. I want to know, at what point is a parent considered too affluent to advocate for their child? At what point is a community considered too privileged to be taken seriously? Is there a rubric for that? And what schools are being treated as punishment schools behind closed doors? I've been called many things during the consolidation process, but what hurts most as a father is the implication that somehow fighting for my children is racist. I have 2 Hispanic daughters. Am I not allowed to fight for them in this district? Am I not allowed to want strong schools, safe schools, and a fair process for them? If there was truly a comprehensive integrity investigation, then either major facts were missed or this kind of conduct is tolerated. Either explanation is deeply troubling. I ask that AISD board conduct a full integrity investigation to find out what was transparent and what was not. Thank you.
Good evening. Good evening. I'm Barbara Spears Corbett, back again. As the only remaining historic stadium constructed exclusively for blacks in Texas, Elsie Anderson Yellow Jacket Stadium occupies a unique space in the city and state's cultural landscape. Its survival is a powerful reminder of the importance of collective action, the necessity of public investment, and the enduring value of community heritage. Excuse me. Designating the stadium as a central facility honors its history. Some AISD staff members may not fully understand or disregard what this means. What are we asking of you? With our numerous public comments and letters, we ask that you please acknowledge the stadium's status as a district facility, communicate it clearly, and advise and enforce all rules, policies, managing procedures, and usage. Address those who disregard these rules without penalizing the broader community, students, or the OLCA alumni. Uphold the unique vision and pride associated with this stadium. Thank you.
Thank you. Our next 3 in-person speakers are Danita Thompson, Delicia McLean, and Mark Martinez.
Good evening. My name is Danita Thompson, and I'm here to make sure that my voice is heard. I am a lifelong resident of Austin. Monday through Friday, I make my way to Yellow Jacket Stadium for my 5 a.m. walk. However, this has become increasingly more difficult due to either the gates being locked and or the numerous run groups using the track. These groups consist of anywhere from 6 to 8 members to over 40. They bring video equipment, including tripods to record their runs, sell products, and bring large stationary equipment to train. Many community members have stopped using the track because of this. These groups, they gather near the bleachers extended onto multiple lanes of the track. I'm sorry. And these groups, they do not adhere to the track etiquette, and Yellow Jacket Stadium's accessibility has become very chaotic. There appears to be no guidelines. Signage throughout the field or upon each entry point needs to be considered. Lastly, but not least, there needs to be monitoring to ensure that these guidelines are being complied with. Thank you so much for my concern.
The recently released PIA records raise serious concerns not just about staff behavior, but about whether the district's legal oversight is ensuring compliance with the state law. This is not a mistake, but rather a failure of leadership. We have a superintendent who frames everything as doing hard things, while surrounding himself with people who are easy to control or unable to challenge him. In the PIA records, the Senior Executive Director Communications stated on October 14th, just noting all of our chats are subject to open records. Immediately after that message, multiple chats were deleted. This PIA request was submitted in mid-September. This is a direct violation of Texas Government Code 552351. The records also show informal decision-making, outside public governance, abandonment of the district's own decision framework, and public engagement that appears managed rather than genuinely considered. At this point, the situation feels more like the emperor has no clothes. Everyone inside the system pretends the process is transparent and principled, while the public can see clearly that it is not. The community sees it, the record shows it, the law addresses it. The question is, will the board acknowledge it and do something about it?
Good evening, trustees. The messages uncovered through the recent open records request reveal something deeply disturbing inside ISD's leadership. Senior staff openly mock and show contempt and disdain for parents. They discuss using school assignments punitively. This is not how a school district should treat the families it serves. The records also suggest that certain schools were quietly exempted from the consolidation process, while others were placed on the chopping block. The community deserves to know which schools were protected and why. Most alarming of all, there are messages that appear to show staff coordinating the deletion of public records. This is not just inappropriate, it violates Texas law governing public records. This is bigger than any one school closure. It is about whether the public can trust the leadership making these decisions. So we're asking for three simple things: a full independent investigation, a transparent accounting of exemptions, and a pause on school consolidations until the public has the truth. Austin families deserve transparency, accountability, and leadership worthy of their trust. Thank you.
Thank you to our in-person speakers. We will now play the recorded messages for public comments, so please listen carefully.
Hello, this is Adam Sparks, a parent at Maplewood. If you take a walk through the Cherrywood neighborhood, you'll see one thing: babies, so many babies. I've literally been promoting Maplewood to one neighbor since his son was born 5 years ago, and now that it's time for his child to enter Maplewood, he's not, because he doesn't want to send his kid to kinder for 1 year and then move him next year. At Maplewood, we don't know why we were put on the list, we sure don't know why we were taken off the list, and we don't know why we're still in limbo. Maplewood is at 94% capacity within its zone, it costs less than the average elementary school, and it's a bedrock of our community. The main argument we seem to hear is because of the budget. But closing Maplewood would save 0.1% of the ISD operating budget. 0.1%. If you made $100,000 a year, that's the equivalent of cutting $100. AISD literally saved more money in half a year by reducing P-card expenses. At the same time, AISD has apparently only now realized that it can cut an additional $20 million in department vacancies for next year's budget. We at Maplewood are not opposed to sacrificing for the good of our community, but we also deserve at least an explanation of why we remain on a temporary list that serves little purpose other than encouraging my neighbors to look elsewhere for pre-K and kinder.
Hi, AISD Board of Trustee members. This is Michelle G. I live on Monroe in Golden Creek neighborhood. I'm a mother of two kids under 4, and I'd just like to formally request that we remove the Becker property from the surplus list at this time. I'm hoping that we can continue to collaborate with you and plan together the future for the Becker property. I'm specifically interested and would like that the playgrounds and park areas on the property remain open to the community and available for kids to be outside. Our neighborhood currently lacks official city park space, and this is already built and I think prudent for us to maintain. So again, appreciate your consideration and look forward to working together. Thank you.
Good evening, trustees. Expressing my support for the TCIS partnership with Austin ISD under the 1882 framework for the 3 middle schools, Dobie, Burnett, Webb. I want to thank the administration, campus leaders, and community members who've worked together to reach this point. These conversations reflect a shared commitment to strengthening these schools and supporting the students they serve. 1882 partnerships can be a positive tool when the district chooses the right partner and maintains a clear focus on students and staff. I believe TCIS represents a value-add partner for Austin ISD. My understanding is that TCIS will bring additional resources, expertise, and support into these school communities while respecting and preserving the unique culture of each campus. Importantly, this partnership builds on the improvement that is already happening in these schools and centers the work around the people who matter most, the students and the educators. When partnerships are done thoughtfully, they can expand opportunities while keeping schools rooted in their communities. I appreciate the district and community working collaboratively to reach a solution that prioritizes students, supports staff, and strengthens these campuses. Thank you for your time and your continued work on behalf of AISD students.
Lori Barzano in support of Becker. Please remove Becker from the surplus property list. I respectfully ask you to work with the Golden Creek Neighborhood Association to plan for the future of the Becker property. The Herman Becker Trust deserves this much respect for donating the land to the school district to educate young children. Becker deserves this much respect as a historical landmark. that has educated youth for nearly a century. The Bolden Creek community deserves this much respect for longstanding support of the school district and meeting every demand it has made of the school and the Becker community. Thank you.
Hi, I'm calling today to ask that you reconsider adding Becker Elementary School to the surplus property list. I think the best idea here would be to maybe be in collaboration with the Bolden Creek Neighborhood Association so we could make plans together for the future use of the property. I am a parent of a former student of Becker Elementary, and one of the things that we were the most proud of and helped us feel the most safe was that my understanding was that Herman Becker or his heirs donated the land in 1935 specifically for educating youth. And I'd hate to see that purpose go by the wayside. Also, it's such an integral part of our neighborhood with the playgrounds and the garden and a place where people play and gather. I just think it would be a great mistake to lose that space that has helped us forge community in this area. So I hope you will reconsider. Thank you.
Hello, this is Ann Jansen, a resident of Bolden Creek neighborhood. I live on Briar Street, which is 3 houses down from Becker Elementary, which is closing. And my comment is that I prefer that building and space not be used for apartment building or condo building, as I believe those sorts of buildings belong on the periphery of this neighborhood block, such as Old Torf, South First, or Lamar. Whatever goes in there should be, in keeping with the fabric and community of the neighborhood, whether it be an art building, a museum, and like that. Thank you very much, and I appreciate your help, and please listen to my appeal. Thanks. Bye.
Hi, my name is Carol Goodwin. I'm a resident of the Bolden Creek neighborhood residing at 1509 Newton Street. I'm calling to request that the AISD board remove Becker Elementary from the surplus property list and to urge the board to collaborate with the Bolden Creek Neighborhood Association to plan for the future use of the Becker property. The school has been and should remain an important focal point for the neighborhood, bringing our community together in an intergenerational way that promotes learning as well as a sense of safety and well-being. There are so many creative ways that the building and its environs could be used to continue the school's value to the neighborhood, children and adults alike, and to preserve its historic landmark designation and green spaces. Thank you so much for your time and consideration.
Trustees, please stop the superintendent's plan to sell our community assets. Please vote no to designating Sunset Valley, Dawson, Wedane, Becker, and Ridgetop campuses as surplus property by the district. 3 of the claimed surplus campuses were once over-enrolled wall-to-wall dual language programs. These are the same campuses that you all had voted to close in November, resulting in the dismantling of all 4 wall-to-wall dual language programs in AISD. Ironically, those fully enrolled, vibrant, successful programs you voted to close are now being proposed as surplus. Trustees, your vote will determine whether our neighborhood schools will be sold to the highest bidder. Please atone for what you have already done and continue to do to Rosedale neighborhood. This legacy work, as the superintendent puts it, will result in generational trauma to our communities and detrimental consequences to the fabric of our Austin neighborhoods. Please vote no to the surplus designation. Thank you.
Hello, my name is Michelle Lusinger. I live in the Bolden Creek neighborhood, and Becker School is in our neighborhood, my neighborhood. I'm calling to ask you to please remove Becker from the surplus property list and collaborate with the Bolden Creek Neighborhood Association to plan for future use of the Becker property. This is a historic building and the first South Austin Elementary School. that was founded in 1936. It's also a very big hub for our neighborhood with people use it for their green space and parks. It has a lot of live oak trees. And we would like to see this used for a more community purpose rather than sold off to become a luxury apartment or something like that. Thank you. Bye.
My name is Melissa Sternberg, and both of my children attended Becker Elementary School. I'm calling to ask that AISD remove it from the surplus property list. That school has been the heart of the neighborhood. My children's experience there was wonderful. The school has a historic landmark designation as well as amazing heritage trees on the property. It really is a focal point of the neighborhood. I would ask that you work with the neighborhood association and collaborate with it on the future of the property as opposed to selling it off. Thank you so much. Bye-bye.
Hi, this is Kathy Clinton, and I am calling to ask that you please remove Becker from the surplus property list. This is a historical landmark and is the first South Austin Elementary School, which was founded in 1936. Herman Becker's heir donated the land in 1935, selling it to Austin Public Free Schools for just $1. And since then, it has been a cornerstone in the Bolden area. There are so many trees, and that property should not be something that is ripped down and sold to the highest bidder. I understand that there is a deficit, but selling and tearing down and selling off properties is not the answer. Again, please take this off, Becker Elementary, off of your surplus list. Thank you so much.
Hi, this is Sally Breaux. My connection to AISD is that I'm an alumni, native Austinite, and parent of LASA student. And I'm calling to request removing Becker from the surplus supply list. We've been a supporter of AISD and Becker since it was previously on the closure list. We're surprised to see that it's up for bid despite its historic nature and the plaque out front, and the fact that the Bolden Neighborhood Association has supported AISD in an extraordinary way when Becker became dual language. The property is located on a one-way street that with difficult access, with no parking, in the middle of a neighborhood. So we know that the zoning, if the historic is designation is not important, then the zoning probably isn't either, and a large multifamily structure is not appropriate use for our neighborhood. Thank you for your consideration.
I want to ask a simple question. What's next? You close schools and now you want to sell those properties for profit, but the revenue from selling schools is small compared to the district's overall budget. It doesn't solve the long-term problem. So what happens the next time there's a deficit? Do we close more schools? Because once public schools become real estate to balance budget, where does that stop? What's most concerning is that we have a discussion between your colleague, I believe her last name is, she had asked, what building should we keep? Becker or Barton Hills? I believe it was that mentioned Barton Hills. That tells families these decisions weren't rooted in clear planning, but uncertainty. And what was told to the community was a lie. Taxpayers paid for these schools. They belong to the people of Austin, not to the wealthy investors or to the highest bidder. When you sell them off, you aren't just selling land, you're breaking trust with the families who built those communities around them, and you're breaking trust with Austin. So again, I ask, what's next?
I've got to re-record one more time. Hi, my name is Katie McKay, and I am a Bolden Creek neighborhood resident. I'm also a Becker Elementary parent of a current fifth grader and of a daughter who attended all the way through as well. I'm also a former teacher of Becker Elementary from 2008 to 2010 and parent support specialist who helped to start the dual language program and do community organizing to fill the school when it was under-enrolled and under threat of closure last time. I am asking that you please take Becker off of the surplus list and work together with us, the Bolden Creek Neighborhood Association and neighbors, who care deeply about this community space that was donated to the schools in order to be a place for youth education. We have amazing resources in our community that help to keep the school open and full for many years. And we would like to donate those resources and continue to work with AISD to make this a profitable partnership, as well as support the community in the ways that this building should. Thank you.
Hello, my name is Fritz McKay, and I'm a Becker Elementary student. I really do not want the school to close because it's been a great school, and I've went there since first, and it's just been fun. Oh, yeah, I don't want to tear it down or turn it into an apartment.
This is Roxanne Evans, District 1. I was not here in 1971, but I now understand how Elsie Anderson students felt when the district allowed the high-performing school to close, padlocked its doors, tossed trophies in the trash, and prevented students from entering their beloved school. History is repeating itself as some of these same students and community members are being denied entry to Yellow Jacket Stadium, a space trustees voted to keep a community space. The district entered into an agreement with the original Elsie Anderson Alumni Association that it is now breaking. The disregard and disrespect of East Austin in general and the Elsie Anderson alumni in particular needs to stop now. Thank you.
Hi, my name is Joe Smythe, Bolden Creek resident at Becker Elementary since 2018, and I'm calling to urge the district to remove Becker from the surplus property list. It's been a fundamental piece of the Bolden neighborhood, and one of the primary reasons that our family moved here 9 years ago. To see it go so quickly from a cornerstone, shuttered, and sold to the highest bidder will do real harm to the neighborhood for years to come. It seems to be a short-sighted solution to budget constraints that will be fixed with a one-time flux of cash from the sale. Please work with the Bolden Creek Neighborhood Association to ensure that the land is still used for educational purposes in some form or fashion, as was specified when this land was donated almost 100 years ago. Thanks.
Hi, my name is Stephanie Land. I am an AISD parent and also a Bolden Creek resident calling to demand that you remove Becker from the surplus property list. It's already bad enough that you've closed it despite the community jumping through every hoop you ever gave it to ensure its survival. But now to add insult to injury by maneuvering to sell it to some developer would just be so wrong. Work with the BCNA to develop something creative, something interesting, neighborhood friendly. Create a project like the Baker School in Hyde Park or Old Taylor High in Taylor, and do better, please. We ask this as respectfully as possible. Thank you very much. Bye-bye.
Yes, hello. My name is Per Jansen. I live in the Bolden Creek neighborhood, quite near Becker Elementary School. I'm calling to ask you to please remove Becker from the surplus property list, or to not put it on the surplus property list. I would also like that you collaborate with the Bolden Creek Neighborhood Association for a plan for the future use of the Becker property that serves both AISD as well as the people in the citizens of Austin and the Bolden Creek residents. You may also want to consider that Herman Becker's heirs donated this land to the public schools so that it would be used for education, and it's a cornerstone of the Bolden Creek neighborhood. There's a lack of neighborhood parks in this area of Austin, and so it's good to use it for that, something along those lines. Thank you very much. Bye-bye.
Hi, my name is Pooja Patel, and I was calling to request to have Becker removed from the surplus property list. The land was donated in 1935, really with to be determined to be used for educating our youth, and it is one of Austin's first elementary schools, founded all the way back in 1936. Bolden Creek neighborhood really lacks parks and green space, and this property has many heritage live oak trees. In addition, I think the community of Bolden Creek neighbors really support AISD, and we've done that through significant efforts to increase enrollment, and really participating in the Viva Becker campaign, spending hundreds of hours creating promotional materials, supporting AISD fairs, going door to door. So we would like to advocate to support the educational community and really would like this to continue to be a place of education. Thank you.
Hi, my name is Brian Feldman, and I'm calling to request that you remove Becker from the surplus property list. Please work with the Bolden Creek Neighborhood Association to plan for the future use of the Becker property. This property for the school was donated by Erman Becker's heirs and sold it to the Austin Public Free Schools with the specific request that the land be used for educating youth. Additionally, this is a historic landmark and the first Austin elementary school, and this is a core part of the neighborhood. Removing it would substantially damage the neighborhood, and personally, this is one of the reasons why I chose to live in this area. And additionally, there are many historic and community-driven landmarks. This is an area where people in the neighborhood come together, and there are many historic heritage oak trees that help define what the neighborhood looks like, and removing the school would significantly damage the neighborhood. We would like to continue to collaborate with Austin.
Hi there, this is Elizabeth Newton. I'm a parent living in Bolden Creek and just wanted to leave a comment about Becker Elementary and any plans for development or repurposing of the property going forward. We're just a big proponents of AISD and having our kids in school with y'all, and we just want to make sure that you're in touch with the Bolden Creek Neighborhood Association about plans going forward, and they can have some input. As you know, our area of town is a little bit limited on green space for especially young kids to play. And we've utilized, the park at Becker and have family friends that have been really involved in the green classroom there. So just wanting to do what we can to keep some of those assets in the neighborhood. Appreciate y'all. Thank you. Bye-bye.
Hi, my name is Eric Reyna. I live in Bolden Creek. Please remove Becker from the surplus property list. Please collaborate with the Bolden Creek Neighborhood Association to plan for the future use of the Becker property. Thank you.
Yeah, hi, this is Stuart Prier, longtime resident of Bolden Creek neighborhood. I've got a toddler who will be entering elementary school soon, and I'm just calling to voice protest to the Becker campus being deemed a surplus property so that AISD can sell the property. I would just like to say that, as we know, it was donated back in 1930s to be used for educational purposes only. It's a historic landmark, and the property itself includes many heritage oak trees, and it being sold to the highest bidder for apartment complexes or other real estate options is not what the intended use of the property was. So thank you for your time, and I would just like to reiterate that I hope that the property is not deemed surplus and that it remains an educational facility. Thank you very much.
Hi, my name is Rebecca Long. I live on Briar Street, which is the T Street that ends with Becker Elementary School at the end of it. I am pleading for Becker to be removed from the surplus property list. We have an amazing Bolden Creek Neighborhood Association, and if we can work together to figure out the best way to use this property, everybody in the neighborhood is going to benefit from that. This property was donated for the purpose of education, and anything that doesn't happen with that main priority in mind is going against the people's wishes who donated this land in the first place. I really hope that we can work together to come with a solution that's going to benefit everybody who calls this neighborhood our home. Thank you.
Hi, trustees. My name is Vicki DeBusk. I am a longtime resident of the Bolden Creek neighborhood for 28 years. All three of my children attended Becker Elementary. Please remove Becker from the surplus property list. This property was essentially donated in 1935, selling it to public free schools for $1 with the specification that the land be used for educating youth. Becker is a historical landmark, the first South Austin elementary school built in 1936. The property includes many heritage live oak trees, and it is surrounded by a close single-family houses. For decades, the Bolden Creek neighbors and Becker community has supported AISD. Let's continue this relationship and continue to collaborate to support Austin ISD and public education. Please remove Becker from the surplus property list. Please collaborate with the Bolden Creek Neighborhood Association to plan for the future use of the Becker property. Thank you for your time.
Hello, this is Frederick Tamarkin, a local Bolden Creek resident directly affected by the closure of Becker Elementary as a neighbor and as a future ISD parent. I'm calling to share that we need to give this property a chance. This school was very quickly closed and very quickly targeted, and now very quickly moved to be sold. This property was donated with the sole intent of long-term public education, and we are not giving it a chance to fulfill that long-term wish, as well as the long-term value that this has provided to the Bolden Creek neighborhood. But declaring this property surplus and selling it to the highest bidder would close the door on all of that, and consider how we are removing something so valuable and so highly utilized for many, many years. And that's not just the school, that's the surrounding properties as well, particularly the green classroom and all the additional networking and programming from Girl Scouts and community events that it supports. Not asking for a final decision, but this process is moving far too quickly.
Hi, my name is Ryan DeBoer. I am a member of the Bolden Creek neighborhood. I live on Briar Street. I'm calling to express my support to remove Becker from the surplus property list. We, as a neighborhood, have committed a lot of resources to Becker School, and we deserve to have a seat at the table in deciding the future use of the property. The neighborhood needs parks. We need more options for what to do with the property than to sell it off to the highest bidder. Very important to this whole neighborhood and the whole community that Becker remains a part of the community and not just sold off as surplus. So please remove Becker from that list. We have the entire neighborhood support on this. Thank you.
I want to ask a simple question. What's next? You closed schools and now you want to sell those properties for profit, but the revenue for selling schools is small compared to the district's overall budget. It doesn't solve the long-term problem. So what happens the next time there's a deficit? Do we close more schools? Because once public schools become real estate to balance budgets, where does that stop? What's most concerning is that we know from internal conversations and operations and planning discussions, colleagues had stated, which building would you rather keep, Barton Hills or Becker? And another responded, Barton Hills is better. That tells families something very different. These decisions were being weighed internally while the public was being told a very different story. Taxpayers paid for these schools. They belong to the people of Austin. They belong to the children of Austin, not to the wealthy investors or the highest bidder. When you sell them off, you're not just selling land. You're breaking trust with the community of Austin, with the families who built these communities around their schools. So again, I ask, what's next?
Hi, my name is Janae Ovitt, and I am a parent of an AISD student who is currently in 7th grade. And I'm calling to ask you to please remove Becker from the surplus property list. I also live in Bolden Creek, and my daughter went to Becker for her elementary school. And we would love if AISD could work with the Bolden Creek Neighborhood Association to figure out the best use for this property that's right in the middle of our neighborhood. And when Herman Miller gave this property to AISD, it was for educating the youth. And we think to honor that, we should work with AISD and the neighborhood to figure out the best way to honor that and to use the property in the future, understanding that Becker is closing, but we think that it could be used better than just letting the highest bidder get it, and we can work together and find a better use for it. Thank you very much.
My name is Alicia Bonilla. I am a Becker parent, and I also had a student go through Becker about 10 years ago. I've been told that AISD is considering designating Becker as surplus, and I urge the board to vote no against this. Becker was a vibrant, completely enrolled school that was literally the heart of our community. It needs to stay a community property. It is not surplus, and by voting surplus, you're literally handing it over to a developer to do whatever they want in the middle of our neighborhood that's full of small bungalows and residences and local businesses that are 1 story high. No one in our neighborhood wants to see what was the heart of our community turned into, a bunch of developer houses or a large apartment building that's completely unscaled. And with a surplus designation, that's entirely possible. I urge you to please vote no on surplus.
Hi, my name's Amy. I live in the Bolden Creek neighborhood, and I'm asking you to please remove Becker from the surplus property list and to collaborate with the Bolden Creek Neighborhood Association to plan for the future use of the Becker property. Becker is a historical landmark in the first South Austin Elementary School, and it's really a cornerstone of our neighborhood. We really lack parks and green space, and would appreciate collaborating on this, on the future of the property. It also includes many heritage live oak trees, and we want to ensure that those are protected. Thank you.
Hello, my name is Kathy Wilson. I'm a parent to 2 AISD students. Please remove Becker Elementary from the surplus property list. Please collaborate with the Bolden Creek Neighborhood Association to plan for the future use of the Becker property. It was very disappointing that community input did not seem to take place in the decision to close the school, so I would encourage the board to do better this time. This is a cornerstone of our neighborhood, and we'd like to work together and collaborate to support Austin ISD and public education. Thank you for your consideration.
Hello, my name is Laura Malcolm. I am a resident and homeowner in the Bolden Creek neighborhood of Austin. I am calling to please request that you remove Becker from the surplus property list and collaborate with the Bolden Creek Neighborhood Association on the plan for the future use of the property. Thank you very much. Goodbye.
Hi, my name is Joyce Bertolacini. I live in the Bolden Creek neighborhood, and I'm calling to please request that you remove Becker Elementary School from the surplus property list. I've lived in the neighborhood since 1998, and I've paid school taxes the entire time that I've lived here willingly. I've supported the school in terms of the Becker Green Classroom, having written about it for the Bolden Neighborhood Association, of which I used to be an officer. I just feel that we need a lot more public participation in this process, because I'm just finding out now yesterday was when I found out that this was being considered, and it doesn't seem like our neighborhood has had an opportunity to even talk to the AISD about what this plan is for this school. The school was sold to what was Austin Public Free Schools for $1 for educating youth.
My name's James Talbot. I live in the Bolden area and have for 40 years, and I'm against treating Becker School as surplus and the Green Classroom. I actually built some of the art at the Green Classroom and watched it from its beginning, and Becker School is too important, and that property is too central to a small neighborhood to be selling it off to the highest bidder. It's just too important to us. you really need to listen to the neighborhood. What's happening is atrocious.
To the Board of Trustees, my name is Leroy Bookman III. I'm part of the original L.C. Anderson Alumni Association. As the only remaining historic stadium constructed exclusive for blacks in Texas, the original L.C. Anderson Alumni Association, along with community members, raised concerns about the status, management, and use of Yellow Jacket Stadium. What the community has received is another bad decision from the administration, locking the gates. Imagine the community's dismay when they see track clubs and vendors take over the stadium and they have the gates locked in their faces. Without any community engagement, a community that has been led to believe it would have access to the stadium for walks and approved community events. We are respectfully requesting an explanation. Thank you for your time.
This is Elsa Nelson. I'm a resident of Bolden Creek, and I'm calling to strongly oppose surplusing Becker. I understand it would generate the biggest cash flow into Austin School District, but that money it would be available to you guys. There's limited things you could do with the money that comes in, as opposed to that beautiful school being a part of this neighborhood as long as it has been. Is giving this area a lot of joy to have there. Thank you.
Hi, my name is Madeline May. I live on Briar Street, just steps away from Becker Elementary. Becker Elementary is one of the primary reasons we decided to move to Briar Street. I've known of Becker Elementary since I was young, because I grew up in Austin, and it's been such an integral part of the community for so long. And it is that because it was donated to be that. In 1936, donated for, or was sold for $1 to be used for the purpose of educating. And it's been almost 100 years at this point of careful cultivation and development of an educational program. Dual language, and I know that the purpose for the movement of the dual language is to be in a more immersion area, and I understand that. But I think that there are so many better uses for this property than for it to go to surplus and be sold to the highest bidder. So I'm asking for a more thoughtful evaluation and for Becker Bolden Creek Neighborhood Association to be involved in the process. Thank you.
Hello, my name is Jason Rodriguez. I'm with the Wydang family. Called to tell y'all that y'all lack of processing and integrity of it it needs to be restructured. Not to mention the whole directors need to be restructured also. I mean, y'all can't sit there and think that y'all are doing a decent job when you still got families not knowing what's going on, how to do stuff. The processes are too long and too detailed, and they're not informative enough to let us in the right direction. Look at each other and look at each one of y'all and see if y'all are actually doing what's logical, doing a good job. I mean, come on, folks. Y'all getting paid some good salaries to make things happen, and it's not happening. We're spiraling downhill. We need to get this right some way or some manner. Let's get it going. Start utilizing your parents. You know, we're here waiting. We're dying to get involved. Let's get something going.
Hi, my name is Tara Kermsey, and I am a resident of the Bolden Creek neighborhood. I am a mother of a small child and live just down the street from Becker Elementary. I'm calling to ask you to please remove Becker from the surplus property list and to please collaborate with the Bolden Creek Neighborhood Association to plan for the future use of the Becker property. BCNA and the Becker community wish to continue to collaborate to support Austin ASD and public education. And as a resident of the neighborhood who cares deeply about the sense of community that we have here, maintaining it and upholding the values that are included with having the center of that community be one of education, one of community that's including Becker's green classroom, the historic nature of the property, which includes many heritage live oak trees.
Hi, my name is Ryan Wilson. I'm a resident of Bolden. I'm also a parent of 3 students, Becker Elementary. Please remove Becker from the surplus property list and collaborate with our neighborhood, Bolden Creek Neighborhood Association, to plan for the future use of Becker property. Please don't put it on the chopping block and quit claiming to sell it for the highest and best use. Obviously, you want the highest number. However, that's not the highest and best use. How Becker is currently situated in Bolden Creek neighborhood, it would not go well. Please remove Becker from the surplus property list and collaborate with the neighborhood. Thank you.
My name is Liz Rush Smythe, and I'm a Lively and Becker parent and a close neighbor of Becker Elementary in Bolden. I'm calling to request that the heart of the Bolden Creek neighborhood, Becker Elementary, be removed from the AISD list of surplus properties. Eliminating this public space for a small one-time cash injection is short-sighted. Public spaces give neighborhoods places where people can connect, learn, and feel a sense of belonging. They support community well-being by offering safe environments for recreation, education, and shared experiences. Strong public spaces also strengthen local identity and help neighborhoods thrive socially, culturally, and economically. AISD has already closed both of Bolden Elementary schools. Please do not further damage this area of the city for a one-time cash injection. Losing the space will be irreversible. Thank you.
Yes, this is Kathleen Abbott, and Zach took my phone number. Please vote against surplusing Becker Elementary. The building was donated by Herman Becker's family for use in education, and the building is in the center of a historic small lot community that selling to the highest bidder as per an apartment complex would be devastating to, as it's not close to any major roads. I urge AISD trustees to collaborate with the Bolden Creek Neighborhood Association with a representative present when discussing the future of Becker Elementary. Please work with the community. We would like to collaborate. Thank you very much.
Shannon Scott, and I'm a homeowner in Bolden Creek neighborhood. I'm calling to advise you all to please remove Becker from the surplus property list. Please collaborate with Bolden Creek Neighborhood Association to plan for the future use of Becker property. For many reasons, we love that property, and Becker or Bolden Creek actually has limited outdoor space, public space for the neighborhood to use. Thank you for hearing these considerations, and wish you all luck.
Hi, this is Jared Schroed. I'm a proud Maplewood parent. I want to thank the board for continuing to listen to all of the Maplewood parents in regards to how you all have kept our school open for next year and many years beyond. It's exciting to hear that we'll be able to continue to celebrate our 75th anniversary next year. And much like Cassis was able to do and how we had the entire board out there, we look forward to you all doing that next year with Maplewood. As an organized and heavily favorable team at Maplewood, we look forward to continuing to rebuild the building and keeping the community strong. Thanks. Have a great day.
Hello, this is Amy Weepa. I am a neighbor in the Bolden neighborhood, and I am calling to say no to Becker being surplus. Fully enrolled, vibrant neighborhood schools are not surplus. And Herman Becker gifted this school to the city of Austin with the intent that it remain a dedicated place for people to come together to receive education. And it would be wrong to get rid of this building, as we can use it for so many different purposes in our community. And I would urge them to say no to making it a surplus. We need this school. It's imperative. Becker Elementary needs to stay open. Thank you. and goodbye.
I am Nathaniel Robinson, a 1965 graduate of the original Elsie Anderson Yellow Jackets, AISD board members. The Yellow Jacket Stadium is one of the oldest African American historic track and field stadiums in Texas. By designating the stadium as a central facility, it initiated the fulfillment of the community's aspirations for the stadium. It saddens me that AISD administration is failing once again to honor the policies and agreements regarding the management and use and seek to erase the historic significance of the stadium. The continued bad decisions from administration, locking the gates without community engagement or notice, electing to treat the Yellow Jacket Stadium different than the other facilities demonstrates a troubling pattern of inequitable treatment and exclusion. I'm reaching out to you for a resolution to this matter. Thank you.
Hi, my name is Patricia Roach, and I'm calling to say that I hope you will vote no to surplus the Becker School. And thank you very much.
Hi, my name's Adam Greenspan. I live in Bolden Creek. I'd like to remove Becker Elementary from the surplus property list. It's meant to be used for education. That's what it was originally designed for. And, the neighborhood's going to keep changing. I think it's a little short-sighted to just give up that property that can be something that helps for education for the future. We don't know when we'll need it. And once it's gone, you're not going to get it back. So thank you.
This is Stephanie Brower. I live down the block from Becker, and I'm a parent of two small children, 3 and 1 year old. I'm really calling to strongly encourage the board to remove Becker from the surplus property list at this time. It's really extreme what has happened to the Bolden Creek neighborhood with everything AISD has had to do this year. It's been really disproportionately affected. As you well know, Becker is tucked into the heart of our neighborhood, surrounded by homes, surrounded by one-way streets. There are constantly families in that area, using that space, being in that area, and to have that sold off, it's really adding insult to injury to not take it off and at least first collaborate with the Bolden Creek Neighborhood Association to plan for the future of the property. So I'd please ask that you not be disrespectful of the neighborhood. You take it off the list for now. You work with the Neighborhood Association to make sure we come to a conclusion that is appropriate. Thanks for considering.
Hi, my name is Mike. I'm a resident of Bolden Creek, and I'm calling to ask that Becker be removed from the surplus property list. Becker Elementary is right in the heart of Bolden Creek and is a big part of the community. And there are a lot of people, parents and residents in the Bolden Creek Neighborhood Association who are very interested in collaborating with AISD for plans for the future use of the property. So please remove Becker from the surplus list and please collaborate with the Neighborhood Association on plans going forward. Thank you.
Hello, I am Joanne Lewis, a proud 1968 graduate of the original L.C. Anderson High School Yellow Jackets. AISD Board of Trustees, I personally thank you for what you have already done to preserve our school and name. However, I come to you one more time in our lifetime, asking you to designate the historic Yellow Jacket Stadium as a central facility in order to meet the fulfillment of the community's aspirations for our beloved school and stadium. Please unlock the gates and let's reach an equitable resolution to this matter. Thank you.
Hi, my name is Carlos King, and I'm a graduate of the L.C. Anderson Yellow Jackets. And I'm deeply concerned to learn that AISD administration has failed to honor the policies and agreements concerning the management and use of the historic Yellow Jacket Stadium and field. Despite a clear, mutually executed agreement affirming that the stadium and field is a district facility governed by established policies and procedures, AISD administration has chosen not to honor its obligations and continue to make painful administrative decisions, locking the gates. Once again, with everything that is before you, AISD disrespects the community, continuing a troubling pattern of inequitable treatment and exclusion that dates back more than 5 decades. Please, let's reach an equitable resolution to this matter. Thank you.
Thank you to all of our in-person speakers and callers. This concludes our public testimony. As a reminder, you may also share comments with the board by email at trustees@austinisd.org, and we appreciate your input. And before the president's report, the superintendent wasn't here at the beginning of the meeting. Just want to welcome him back and give him a chance to speak.
Yes, President Boswell, appreciate the opportunity to just say a couple words.
I'm so sorry to interrupt. I apologize. Would it be possible for us to receive the overflow calls from Mary Daniels, April Rodriguez, Lauren Chess, and Nadia Khan, and Selena Martinez? They were overflowed because of the time. Can we please still hear those comments? I mean, can the board members receive them? Yes. Is what I'm asking. Thank you.
And I do have a question about what we heard today. If a property is surplus, can it also be like what we did with like peas and other, like, could it still be a learning facility even if it's surplus?
Yes, Trustee Quintana, you're exactly right. The process that is on our website, if you go to austinisd.org/repurposing, we lay out that any property that's not being used for traditional K-12 purposes, like an elementary school, middle school, or high school, would go through a process. And to do that, we would deem it surplus. The outcome of that process depends on community engagement, feedback from the board, feedback from stakeholders. And so it can be a repurposed facility like Pease. It could be an open space solution that the community supports. It can be anything in between. And also, if the board and the community deem appropriate, it could be sold. But it does not predetermine sale or long-term lease. It is a process. We do have a video online that actually speaks to this very thing. So I would encourage anybody that is listening to please go to austinisd.org/repurposing. Because we're talking specifically about Becker, we do have the Becker community meeting on March 30th. And then we also already have set up Bolden Creek stakeholder meetings as well. But you're exactly right, Trustee Quintana.
Thank you. While we're here and with council permission, are there any other clarifications or information that people want to address? Okay.
This was regarding the questions that we received about the Yellow Jacket Stadium. I just wanted to request that trustees receive just like an update on what the issues are and the resolution of those issues.
Sure, happy to provide that.
Okay. And I also wanted to ask about what the student from Aikens brought up about the Mets Roll products, and also if we could get an update on that as well.
Yeah, certainly happy to do that. And as just a point, Trustee Singh, we as a district 3 years ago committed to providing hygiene products, in our middle schools and high schools, and even making them available in 5th grade. We purchase them and we deploy them. And so I did have time with the student. And so I understand that there are perhaps some gaps. She had some great ideas. So we're going to connect with her and just see kind of what our current assessment is, kind of how that's been going, because that's been a 3-year commitment. But yes, it is something we're committed to. I can provide an update to the board and just see kind of what was occurring there and if there's anything else in the system that needs to be addressed to ensure that our students get what they need.
Thank you. I appreciate all that clarification.
Oh, and I was going take a moment and just say, apologize for my tardiness. I did let our board know that my daughter did have a school event and I have not been to any one of them the entire year, and so was hopeful that I could get it there and back in the time that I had, but was not able to do so. So couldn't stay for the whole thing, but was able to see her for a little bit. So just wanted to share that. Apologies to everybody.
And as we told you in our officer call, we were glad that you went, and it's important to be a dad too, so thank you for doing that. And I'm glad you're with us, and I'm glad you were there, so thank you. Next up is our president's report. We are officially released from our TEA agreed order and officially released from Lone Star Governance. We have chosen as a board to keep reporting on our time. Our December, for this, for now, the December, January, February 3-month average board meeting time spent on Lone Star Governance defined student outcomes and special education monitoring was 51.3%. And in February 2026, the amount of time was 70.4%. And the board spent 352 minutes in executive session in February. And that ends the section on information reports from the administration. At this time, we're moving into a preview of agenda items that will be considered for a vote at our next regular board meeting. That's on March 26th after spring break. And staff is available to answer any questions for tonight's preview. We're going to start with academics and curriculum. Section number 5. Do we have any questions on these items?
I think President Boswell, if you'd allow me a moment. I just want to make a comment regarding agenda item 5.3, approval of service agreement with TCIS. Just a couple things I wanted to clarify because I've heard it a little bit in the community. First is that Region 1 is an advising partner to TCIS. They are not the operator, so they are going to be providing support given their experience in turning schools around. And then secondly, just to be clear, even though we've communicated with various stakeholder groups, I just want to kind of reinforce that the staff at these campuses, though operated by TCIS, will be Austin ISD employees. And lastly, I just want to reinforce that in order for this to work, it's important that we acknowledge that the autonomy that is going to be necessary for TCIS to operate, and that's something that we're committed to doing. So just wanted to make sure I said that. We did have 3 meetings yesterday evening. All were, I think, successful. Did hear from community, did hear from staff, but just want to make that point and share that update with our trustees.
Thank you. So does anyone have any questions about agenda item 5.3 or other agenda items under number 5? Trustee Hunter.
I do not have a question, but I did want for our community to be able to look at the ADSI calendar to see which schools are impacted by that. So I don't want parents to be surprised when they, what do you mean my kid has 2 more days of school? Parents might be excited about that. Linder, Pecan Springs, Sanchez, Woldridge, Burnett, Dobie, Mendez, Paredes, and Webb. So they can go and see the additional calendar, the additional days on the calendar. Just wanted to make that, so let parents know that that is there for them. And can we put it in like another place they don't have to hunt for it maybe?
Josh, the question was, is there another location that we could place the ADSI perhaps update on our website or?
Just like the one click, like school calendar, click, and it's there. That'd be great if y'all can do that.
We will do that, Trustee Hunter.
Thank you so much.
Thank you. Anything, any other questions or comments on this section?
Just on 5.3, I really appreciate the ongoing work. This year has been, Burnett, Dobie, and Webb have folks have just been working so hard, and there's just been so much growth. And we found ourselves in a sort of unique set of circumstances where turning towards an external partner for a whole bunch of complicated reasons becomes, I think, a good move. and I understand, the superintendent, that you've been to the campuses, a lot lately, and that there's been ongoing engagement. I went, and Trustee Boswell went, and some administrators went and visited the TCIS schools in San Antonio, and I really enjoyed the visit. There's just a lot going on. It's really complicated, and I'm a little heartsick that we haven't been able to talk about it quite as much as I would like, so that there was just full understanding both of the complexity and how we got to where we are. So I just kind of want to name that and put that sort of out for us. And I'm just hopeful that as more people sort of begin to figure out that another change is coming, that somehow we stay ahead of it to the greatest extent possible in terms of communication. I'm supportive of where we're going. And I think a lot of folks see why we're doing this and how we're doing it, and a lot of folks see how much Burnett, Dobie, and Webb have grown. But I always, we anticipate more questions and the need for more conversation, and I'll be here for it. And I'm sorry we haven't been able to talk about it more as we've gone. And this is not a matter of blame, it's just kind of our structured reality.
Thank you for that. Trustee Quintana.
So with this partnership, what sort of grace does that give us? What's the timeline?
Yeah, so Trustee Quintana, we're really engaging with this partner to ensure that our students get what they need to be successful, given the work that we've already done. And so there are lots of things that I think our students would benefit from the operational agreement with TCIS. Again, being advised by Region 1. So there are going to be additional resources that can be deployed for the campuses, which is obviously very, very helpful. We talk about that all the time. We also know that sometimes a partner, in fact, can move quicker than we can to address different concerns that they may have. That autonomy is something that we know is expected, and we certainly are in agreement that that's necessary here. And if approved, it would allow us to focus on many other things within the system and allow kind of that autonomy to progress the work in those three schools. And I fully expect, these schools we looked at middle of year data, they're moving. I'm very hopeful that these schools get Ds or even better. But if it were to be accepted by the agency, it would also provide a pause in accountability. But that's not the driving kind of factor. It's really resources, and it's kind of the work that our partners have been able to do, where Austin ISD historically, has not been able to do in the time frame that's available to us. So was that helpful, Trustee Quintana? Thank you.
Trustee Hunter? Okay. Anyone else? All right. I want to steer our community as well to the Austin ISD School Improvement page, and under the 2025 restarts, you can find a little bit more information about the proposal. And if you scroll down past some other things, you'll find kind of near the bottom, you'll find a list of FAQs in English and Spanish about the turnaround. And I think it does address a lot of the questions I've been hearing from the community about the partner, about the reasons, about the benefits for our students and our district, the IB, a lot of things, current staff and who will have an opportunity to stay if the partner, chooses to keep some of our staff. Will staff be Austin ISD employees? The people there, the answer is yes. So a lot of different things, when it goes into effect. And I think it's helpful to have a lot of those questions answered in one place. And I do really want to say how much I appreciated the opportunity as we were considering this to visit some TCIS partner schools in San Antonio ISD, to see things in action and to see how they were using the additional resources that come with an 1882 partnership to support students in ways that are harder to do when money is tighter. And it was really being used in thoughtful ways, and really to see their model of education in action, and to see, we went to an elementary school, a middle school, and a high school, and really saw very ambitious learning, the kinds of things that we know families are asking for on the campuses. So it was, really appreciated the chance to see the school in action before we make this decision together as a group. So thank you very much.
One quick comment, if it's okay. The administration also did visit schools in Region 1 to also get a deeper understanding of the work that they've been doing. So I know that we collectively, administration and board, went to San Antonio, but we also made an additional trip to really ensure that the advisory services that they're providing that has demonstrated kind of being able to work in the Valley can work well in this arrangement, and we're very confident that it will.
It's great. I really appreciate all the thoughtful work that went into it, and the partners who are choosing to say yes.
Sure, thank you. So you kind of answered my question a little bit with what you just said, but I was wondering if you have anything else to offer on why you're confident that this particular configuration of this partnership would be successful here, and then secondarily, what if it isn't? When would the administration be able to determine that, and then what do you expect would be our response if it doesn't seem to be bearing the results that we're hoping for?
So the reason that I believe that will be successful is the intentionality in how they're going to operate the school with the resources that they will have, and having demonstrated being able to do that. When you look at turnaround work, there's examples of school partners doing it in 2 years, 3 years, and one of the things we have to acknowledge is, we needed to create a structure in a team that matches the urgency kind of with the skill sets of the people that we're partnering with, which is why Region 1 advising is so instrumental in this team. Both have demonstrated the ability to turn around schools. Region 1 has done so successfully in a shorter period of time. And so when you think about the demographics of the schools in Region 1, and also San Antonio certainly, they line up very well with the demographics of these schools. And then I also have been very clear, and we have been very clear that, though TCIS, the model that is reinforced, as a system, won't be implemented immediately, right? It is really intentional work to move outcomes, and then over a period of time, once the accountability chain is broken, to then bring in and build on IB. And so I think it's thoughtful. We really wanted to be responsive to the needs of the school, our students, do something that we knew met the urgency kind of with the plan we're bringing forward. And so I am hopeful that we'll be successful in the application. I think depending on kind of what occurs, because March 31st is when the agency will begin to evaluate. They'll have lots of these all across the state that they'll be evaluating. I expect it would take some time. The agency has worked collaboratively with us over the last 2 years. As we've navigated the TA agreed order, as we navigated turnaround plans, all of those have been, successfully approved by the agency. So my hope is that if there are questions or there are things that they would like to see us strengthen, we'd have the opportunity to do so, and then, refine and ultimately get to a successful kind of approved partnership. So, is that helpful?
Thank you. Anyone else? All right. Also just want to flag before we move on, just appreciation for agenda item 5.4 and a partnership with Travis County using the funds that our voters approved last November to extend early childhood, high-quality child care, after-school programming, and summer programming, and really appreciate the collaboration in making some good opportunities available to our students. Thank you for that. Next up is agenda item 6, business and finance. Any comments on that? All right, next up, 7, facilities. All right, 8, talent strategy. Yes.
I have not watched the video on the surplusing yet, but could you just clarify when and at what point the board would have some voice in the surplus decisions? I know it's not on this agenda for preview, but what is the board's role in the designation of properties as surplus?
So not tied to
not tied to this agenda, but just asking for future agenda potentially. Will we see that on an agenda, or is that not subject to board?
So one of the things that we were really intentional about, Trustee Kaufman, is that any property in Austin ISD, that is not used as a school, we are going to run through the process.
I don't mean to launch this as a discussion topic. I just want to know whether the board will that be brought to the board on an agenda, or is that process outside of the scope of the board?
The process is administrative work, listing the schools that would go through the process. Because just to be clear, we would have to deem it.
I really don't want to create an agenda item that's not there. I just really want to know whether that's since it's not on this agenda. I'm clarifying why it's not on this agenda.
It's not something that.
Okay. Yeah. Thank you.
Thank you.
Can you clarify, for everybody, because there's a lot of mumbling? Let me clarify for everyone what you stated.
Yeah, so it's not on the agenda, but because we have public comment around it, I want to just be really clear that the list, identifying properties that are surplus is the administration's role. That allows us to go through a process to engage with community, to understand what repurposing could be, everything from leasing to, early childhood provider, all the way to a fee simple transaction. So that process is administrative. Before we ever enter an agreement, before we ever even identify a process to receive proposals, that would come to the board. It's kind of administrative work, and then as we move along, you'll get updates, and then if we ever make a decision to progress one, that would come to the board, Trustee Kaufman.
So in other words, we have facilities items for our voting meeting, but it is not that.
It's not on this, correct?
Yeah.
I had a comment on, it's actually on 6.1, if that's okay. That was on the monthly financials, and my understanding is that before we vote on this particular item in 2 weeks, the administration is going to bring to us more clarity on how off we are from our approved budget from June 3rd, from June of last year. And also it's going to include ensuring that we are within the fund balance that we had approved in that budget, correct?
So yes, the way that it's going to come about is first there'll be a conversation where some of it will come about in the work session that's scheduled for the Tuesday before the actual board meeting. Mm-hmm. And then in the superintendent's update, which is already, I think, going to be posted, it'll say budget, and that's where you'll see that information shared.
Okay.
So no, I think you and I are on the same page regarding how that's going to be shared with the board.
Awesome, thank you.
All right. Section 8, talent strategy, any comments? All right, Section 9, we have items for separate vote. Section 10, board administration, election of place 5, Region 13 Board of Directors. And we are eligible to weigh in on a vacancy, 2 vacancies on that board. One is uncontested. And that's it for our preview items. So no questions about number 10 from anyone?
Is that a preview item, or we're voting on that today?
No, that is a preview item. correct? It's just a discussion item. Yes. There's no action of the board here. Right. Yeah, and we have resumes for the applicants behind our login. All right. So next up, that ends our agenda preview. And next up is student achievement. We have a presentation on scorecard goal progress measure 2.1, second grade numeracy. And before we hear our presentation, we can confirm that our monitoring report is complete. Does anyone have evidence that the elements that we need are not present? All right. So we will turn the floor over to Superintendent Segura for the presentation. Thank you.
Thank you, President Boswell. I'd like to welcome up Jennifer Pace, Assistant Superintendent of Elementary School Leadership, Dr. Mary Ann Maxwell, Assistant Superintendent for Academics, and Ms. Jennifer Jones, Director of Elementary STEM. So today we'll be talking about Goal 2, third grade numeracy, which states the percent of third grade students earning meets grade level or above on the STAR Mathematics Assessment in English or Spanish will increase from 39% in June of 2024 to 55% by June of 2029. For those watching, and certainly to our board and our staff that are following along, this is shortly after a presentation that we gave that was over the exact same item. As a commitment to Lone Star governance, we are wanting to bring items to the board 4 times a year. And last time we thought that it was more informative if we included beginning of year and middle of year in one presentation. And because of that, it ends up backing up. So it may seem a little redundant, but that's the reason why there is not new technical data, but here we'll be able to share just other work that we're doing to demonstrate progress on the goal progress measure. Goal progress measure 2.1 is a second grade numeracy intervention. The percent of second grade students scoring in the recommended for intervention level on the NWEA MAP Mathematics Achievement Score Proficiency Indicator below 30th percentile in English and Spanish will decrease from 37% in June of 2024 to 29% by June of 2029. And this is one of those where going down is a good thing. When we talk about the evaluation of progress, similar to what I shared a month ago, there is evidence that the district is on track to meet the third grade numeracy goal. Data for beginning of year shows that 31% of second grade students scored in the recommended for intervention level on the fall 2025 NWA MAP Mathematics Assessment. And data shows for middle of year that 22% of second grade students scored at this level. And so based on previous year program implementation results and the positive trajectory that we have observed this year, we do believe that we are on track. And want to turn it over to Dr. Mary Ann Maxwell and the team to provide kind of more information regarding kind of what we're seeing and what we're doing to progress the work.
Thank you, Superintendent Segura. Good evening, President Boswell and Board of Trustees. We're happy to be back again tonight just to talk a little bit more about the work in going into this. As Superintendent Segura mentioned, we've already presented this data, so we won't spend any time analyzing it or really, going through what it meant. We talked about it quite a bit last time, but what we did focus on, just as a reminder, because the assessment and the norms have changed, rather than looking at our progress in relation to our targets, we were able to, by combining beginning of year and middle of year last time, really look at our progress within this year, looking at the same assessment. Even though the norms have changed, we're still using those same norms from beginning of year to middle of year. So we did see some really nice decreases in those students that were flagged for intervention. We also did, I just wanted to point out a little bit in the data too, we also did take a look at the numbers of students that tested beginning of year and middle of year. It's not, you can't see it on this chart, but I just wanted to mention that there were very few students difference. There were actually only overall in all students, there was 4 students different from the beginning of year to middle of year. Some populations went up a little bit, some populations went down a little bit. For example, the African American population reduced from 288 students to 281 students. So we reduced by 7 students, which accounts for about 2% of overall students in second grade. So it would have been a very small amount. And there were some other increases and decreases around the single digits in various populations. Where we did see the biggest increases in populations actually were economically disadvantaged from the beginning of year to middle of year, and then special education from beginning of year to middle of year. Economically disadvantaged because at the beginning of year, not every student is identified yet as economically disadvantaged, and those applications for free and reduced aren't completely processed. So there was actually a 385 student increase which from beginning to middle of year, and seeing that we still have those decreases in students, that was actually one of our largest areas where we saw decreases in students. That's good news. We had even more students in that category and still continued to see the trend. Same for special education. The difference between beginning of year and middle of year was 171 students. And so again, we're still seeing that trend, which is good to know, whether it's a small amount of students or even a larger amount of students, that same trend of being able to reduce how many students are flagged for intervention is really exciting for us to see. The other thing I did just want to mention is on the appendix, the adjustments to the data that we made there were that we showed a beginning of year column and a middle of year column for all of those campuses. So, and then for each of the student populations in the campuses where we could report numbers of those student populations that weren't asked, which is most of them. I'd love for everyone just to take an opportunity to look at that. Our highest tier campuses that we provide the most supports for, many of them at beginning of year, you can see an incredible improvement for those campuses. It's really where we see the largest amount of improvement. And you can see in those middle of year scores on that appendix that many of our campuses in that tier 1 category are scoring just as well, sometimes even better than our tier 3 and our tier 4 campuses, as far as students who are really making those improvements and how many percentages are qualifying for intervention. So that's really good news too, and just wanted to point out just those changes in the data. And then we'll really spend the rest of our time talking a little more specifics about the work, and then we'll open it up for questions. And I'll hand it over to Ms. Pace for the first section.
Great, thank you. Good evening, trustees, President Boswell, Superintendent Segura. Current results indicate that the district remains on a positive trajectory to meet our 5-year goal of increasing mathematics success in 3rd grade, supported by improvement trends in our current data, as well as gains observed in last year's trajectory and end-of-year STAR performance. At the same time, we want to support and accelerate pockets of slower growth and address any concerning data markers. So we've taken a deeper look at the data to identify this by analyzing MTSS systems, map growth and achievement data, and instructional practices at the campus, grade, and teacher level. And so we're able to target supports more precisely and implement actions designed to accelerate student learning in mathematics. To examine the fidelity of MTSS systems across the district, executive directors met with principals to review MTSS data in detail. And they were really comparing how many students were flagged by the screener and how many of those students flagged were identified for intervention, how many of those students had intervention goals, and of students with goals, how many students had consistent progress monitoring data entered. And so these conversations really helped us to identify students that had healthy intervention systems and also campuses where maybe some gaps existed. And in some cases, work was happening and just that there was a lag in the documentation in the child study systems platform. So as a result, executive directors worked with campus leaders just to strengthen intervention monitoring and documentation practices, and that included going and observing intervention groups more regularly and just clarifying campus protocols for documenting MTSS data. And strengthening these systems just ensures that the students who need additional math support are identified earlier and receive the right interventions and are consistently monitored for progress. Additionally, we triangulated map growth data, achievement data, projected STAR proficiency, comparing campuses across the district and to each other and to the district average, and really identifying campuses that would benefit from acceleration prior to STAR, especially targeting students below 40% meets and masters, or campuses having above 20% projected did not meets, and campuses who maybe weren't progressing as quickly in terms of map growth percentile and test percentile. And so based on this analysis, campuses implemented accelerated learning plans for spring 2026, including dedicated and accelerated learning time woven into the core math block. And this approach merges rigorous grade level instruction with reinforcement of previously taught high leverage TEKS, ensuring that our instructional time is optimized for mastery of grade level standards and monitored independent practice is happening. And so to support this work, teachers receive training on accelerated learning practices and resources with a strong focus on active monitoring during independent practice and really strengthening student ownership of learning. And that kind of looks like teachers really intentionally circulating during independent work time with objective-aligned trackers to check for student understanding and provide immediate feedback and to correct misconceptions in real time and adjust instruction as needed. And campuses were also provided instructional materials, digital resources, and planning supports needed to implement these accelerated learning practices effectively during the remaining weeks leading up to STAR. And then finally, we conducted a more granular analysis of MAP results at the campus level, grade level, and teacher level to really identify where additional support would have the greatest impact. So executive directors worked with principals to really drill down into growth and achievement data from beginning of year to middle of the year to identify, again, teachers and grade levels where support could really accelerate student progress. And for these classrooms, leaders developed targeted coaching plans with high leverage action steps that focus on the most important instructional practice gaps. And then the action steps are intentionally bite-sized and observable and designed to be quickly implemented and refined during follow-up visits. And then at the same time, executive directors are observing broader instructional systems at the campuses, instructional rounds, professional learning communities, coaching conversations, leadership team meetings, and really trying to provide principals with systems level feedback to have an impact at scale. This allows us to address instructional improvements beyond the teacher level and implement actual systems that impact the campus overall. I'll turn it over to you.
So excited to get to talk about math again. Good evening, how are you? To kind of build upon the practices that Ms. Pace was already talking about, one of the things to really keep in mind in seeing some of the results that we're seeing and continuing the work forward is just really thinking about the research and what it shows about when we pair implementation of HQIM or really rigorous content in the learning plus professional-based curriculum,
Curriculum-based professional learning.
Curriculum-based professional learning, I need spring break. Then we are able to actually significantly close achievement gaps. And we've worked really hard to try to do some of this, which I'll get to elaborate on in just a second. But what that really means across our system is that's how we guarantee equity in our classrooms, right? We can take a student at one campus in one classroom of the same grade level, go to another campus of another student at another grade level, in the same grade level, another classroom, and be able to guarantee that they're getting a similar experience in their learning. And historically, as you all know, with marginalized populations, sometimes we weren't seeing that rigorous grade level content. And so I just want to expand on that as we talk about these next few pieces of what we're really working on in the work to support mathematics achievement. We really are seeing gains in the classroom through walkthroughs and all of the work that we're doing to go see instruction in practice. But one of the things that we notice sometimes still isn't quite there is certain research-based instructional strategies or sometimes meeting the intention of the lesson as designed. And what that tells us is that we really want to maintain the rigor. And sometimes that's slightly lost, not intentionally, but sometimes it's due to modifications made within the lesson that's being delivered to the group of students. So one of the examples of this is that in the walkthroughs earlier in the year, about 41% of the lessons were actually being delivered as intended, meaning it was meeting the demand of the rigor and the TEKS. And so one of the things that we decided was that we were going to set a goal for that to increase that to 50% later on this year, which is what we're actually conducting some walkthroughs in our system around right now. Another piece to actually support that we've began implementing, and I'll talk about it again here in a second in our professional learning that we've been doing, is that we actually want to make sure teachers are using the provided facilitation points to the lessons that our HQIM actually provides. And so sometimes, since it was in a digital space, there was a disconnect between how do I do that digitally, but I'm like working with a child. So it did create a little bit of a challenge. Sometimes we also saw a lack of concrete objects with like manipulatives or certain representations being used in the classrooms. So really honing in and paying attention to those prompts really helps teachers know how to own that lesson and ensure they're not inadvertently missing really important pieces for the learning. Again, no one's doing that on purpose, but that goal is now 50%, and so we're actually conducting data right now to hopefully see even higher than 50% of it being meeting the intended lesson target. Professional development is something that is also a key aspect of this and something I really love to talk about, because really you can have the best resource in the hands of every teacher, and without professional learning to support it, it's not going to meet the same mark for our students. So since so much of that has been really talking to and working alongside our leadership team with instructional coaches, with principals and assistant principals, this spring we decided to really target some intentional learning for teachers, and this was done specifically at our turnaround campuses. So there were after-school sessions offered to them, which after school is a challenge. I'm not going to pretend that doesn't come with its own challenge, but actually we were very pleasantly surprised with the amount of teachers who were willing to give up some of their time and come and learn, and we'll talk about some of the reasons for their wanting to continue those. So the math sessions include a few different things. There's kind of 3 components to the math learning that we do. It's a learn, prep, and make series. That is the 3 steps and kind of objectives we follow each time. They'll have a total of 4 sessions. Our last ones are the week after spring break. And so within that learning, we really dig into upcoming content, but also really great teacher facilitation of that content and what they need to know in their lesson internalization to be able to turn the lesson around as intended. So while there's content mixed in, we also can't ignore the fact that we need really great teaching practices and strategies happening. And so we dig into that by way of using what the team has created and added into the curriculum of procedure and facilitation points from those lessons in a print format. So now our teachers have their own mini guide to actually use as they're delivering the lessons. And noticing that that was a barrier and a challenge is they used to only exist in a digital format. So now teachers are able to use them within our session, mark them up, write questions. We actually interact with them and pull out learning. Some of that learning includes things like the intentional questioning that is already planned in the lesson. So teachers aren't having to take the time to think of what questions they're going to ask, but instead, which questions actually fit my students best and are going to make sure they're mastering the content. That's a different way of thinking about it. Another example is planning for misconceptions. What misconceptions and misunderstandings might my students already have? How do I look for that in my lesson delivery to make sure I'm not overlooking those and trying to actually address them in the learning instead of waiting till they happen and then figuring out what to do as a response? Another example is the use of teacher facilitation moves. And so we did a press, pause, and pivot, like when do I dig in further and press students? When do I pause and ask more questions or give an additional resource? When do I pivot and go, oop, okay, students are showing they're not really understanding this. I need to change what I'm doing. And the last one will focus on assessment and how to use that data intentionally as you're providing instruction instead of waiting till after you've provided instruction, assessing and seeing what it is that students may still be struggling with. So within all of that, I know it's a lot of words and I'm so sorry, but there's also a make component. While teachers may not stay and physically make in the moment, we have made the hands-on materials for their lessons for them. This means that if it's a group activity, they're getting 6 copies already so that they can put students in small groups. They've already got the task cards and all of the materials. They're not spending hours in the copier or at the laminator or asking parent volunteers to help. They actually leave with it in their hands. And I mean, it's a lot. There's a lot of stuff they leave with. The other thing about that is that if it's something that's going to be like a one-time activity, meaning maybe it stations around the room, they can already like cut that apart and have it ready, go put it on what they need to. So they leave with this for several units at a time. So teachers aren't having to spend as much time going back and finding their own teacher time to prepare all of these materials, because there are a lot of hands-on materials in math because it's very important for mathematics learning. Another thing about this is we also then at the leadership level, we have what are called learning labs. You've probably heard of these, but 31 schools participate in these, and this is a mix of learning for principals, assistant principals, and instructional coaches. It's actually housed at a particular campus, and they come and visit with their instructional leadership team to learn more in that space. And with that, there was kind of a reset, if you will, of some of the learning of that for the spring. That actually was elicited from feedback from leaders of what they wanted to focus on. And so one of those is instructional coaching, kind of being the heart of how we support teachers in the spring, both from leaders and actual instructional coaches. Coaching teachers, but providing really high action leverage steps, like high leverage action steps. Sorry, I said that backwards. To really be able to put into practice, like tiny bite-sized things that are going to get the most results. And then building student ownership of learning. It's okay to release it to the kids, right? Like we want the kids to be the ones doing the learning and really digging in. And how does that really look on your campus and in your classrooms? So once a month, campus leaders actually come to these half-day learning sessions, and they actually go in and do learning pre-hand, but then go into classrooms and see actual math facilitation and practice and look at things they're seeing, and then kind of come back and talk about what action steps would we have for this teacher. And even if it's not their particular teacher, it helps leaders leave with a better understanding of how to coach their teachers when they do go back to campus and observe in their classrooms. And then finally, at our executive director level, our executive directors are also learning within that same scope, where they're actually getting professional learning around the coaching of their principals. And so the things that they're learning about have to do with monitoring of instruction, improving their own coaching conversations, and also like problem solving around different scenarios and things that are coming up in the work. And the goal of that is that they can then take that directly into their visits the next time with their principals and be able to turn all of that learning around. So really professional learning is the trend there at all levels of the system, and that's really been able to help saturate with the importance of math instruction and really understanding what that should look like. And then I'll turn it over to Dr. Maxwell to end.
Thank you. And so we'll finish up with a couple of the steps that we've taken and that we plan to take in the near future on really continuing that focus on reducing achievement gaps across our student populations. We've talked about this a little bit before, but we really were strategic in the placement of those lighthouse schools. It was a significant process before we even started the year of analysis of students' outcomes and historical data, and we really took care to place these lighthouse campuses where we had large concentrations of underserved students, and did not pick those campuses where it was necessarily easy to implement this work, but where we knew the work needed to happen. Particularly for the lighthouse campuses, it is very intensive weekly coaching, both on the part of our partner and the part of our executive directors and school leadership and academics team supporting. And then that weekly participation in instructional rounds on their own, in addition to the monthly participation in learning labs that they get with other campuses. Those campuses also receive direct teacher coaching, not just from us, but again in partnership with our partner. And the important piece there too is that we behind the scenes are the one designing and driving this work and where it goes and with students with which administrators this is happening. But it's been a huge collaborative effort to really make sure that we're putting them in places where we want to see the impact on student outcomes. Another piece, actually, we both talked about a little bit, was academic monitoring. We talked about those accelerated plans. This is an instructional strategy that we put in place as part of the accelerated learning plans, and it is a very simple strategy, but a very powerful one that we started expecting at all of our school improvement campuses, and we've been monitoring the implementation of it. This is really just a point in the lesson where it forces the release of what the teachers are doing and the ownership of students actually doing the work. The students have to be doing the work at this point. They have to be applying the math. They have to be doing it independently, sometimes in partners. And what the teacher does is you stop the teaching for that moment. You've already set the teaching up. You've already modeled a couple of things usually and worked maybe collaboratively with the students. And then at this point, the kids are just doing the work. It sounds really simple, but as teachers, this is hard for us because we want to keep working with the students. We want to make sure they're getting it. We want to make sure they're getting it right. And so we continue to be with them. We scaffold. They finish everything, and lo and behold, they got everything right. Well, it turns out we are the ones that got everything right, not necessarily the kids getting everything right when they're working independently. This academic monitoring releases the students, and there's an expectation the teacher goes to the classroom at this point and just does what we call laps. They're academic monitoring laps where they are looking and checking in on kids and independently completing things. At that moment, you may go through 3 or 4 students and early finishers, and they all possibly have a common misconception. That allows you to stop what's happening in the minute, go back, start teaching, identify the misconception. If the first 3 or 4 early finishers had it, probably more students in the classroom do too. So it allows you to really get focused on immediate feedback for kids and how they're doing. This is in this piece with really focusing on closing those gaps, because every single student deserves feedback at every minute, and they deserve to practice independently and practice correctly. Sometimes they'll practice for 20 minutes while I'm with a group, and they've practiced incorrectly for 20 minutes, and I don't catch it until I'm grading papers that night. And so this is a very powerful instructional strategy we did with accelerated learning plans, and really we started looking through all aspects of when the release is actually happening for kids. We started actually with our school improvement campuses, and our other campuses requested to be trained in it too. And so we're doing that at the upcoming principal meeting, pulling additional groups of principals because they wanted access to how this works, and they have heard through the grapevine this is a powerful strategy for kids. And then finally, professional learning communities. And we've submitted a board update on that just to talk about that, the beginning of that work. But that's a critical piece here. We focused a lot on lessons and lesson prep and having what you need to be able to deliver those lessons. But a really key piece of PLCs is that you then assess whether or not students got it, and then you have to intervene for specific students that didn't get it. That's a very important part of the PLC process. A lot of time we get stuck in just the beginning piece where we're preparing lessons and activities, and we never quite get to that data analysis piece where we're looking at student work, pulling it back together as a team and saying, okay, which kids really need additional support, and how do we reteach these lessons that are really critical lessons? That's what that PLC is supposed to be about. So we started that PLC work as a district this spring, and we'll be rolling out much more clarifying structures for what PLCs are in Austin ISD. We've engaged campuses in that work, 5 campuses, and lots of different representation from district departments. And so we look forward to seeing the results of that and continuing to see the closing of the gap with our students and across our student populations. And that is the end of our presentation, and we'll open it up for questions.
Perfect. Thank you, Superintendent Segura, and thank you for all of the fantastic information. Trustees, do we have any questions about this report?
President, so thank you, team. Great work. One of the things I wanted to call out, because you saw us kind of make an adjustment from the last meeting to this meeting. I know we talked about it early, but the number of students that are actually identified within each group. And so we're going to work to create a table that shows kind of the story, but I think when you look at beginning of the year, middle of the year, one of the questions that Trustee Hunter had, and I think Trustee Singh also had last time was, well, how do we know that the student population hasn't changed significantly, and maybe that has contributed to some of the growth that we're seeing? And again, growth in this case means going down, which is a good thing. And so when you get into it, a couple things that we found, which totally makes sense, but if you didn't know the system, you wouldn't necessarily be able to kind of communicate it, I think, effectively. One is that our student population, specifically for African American and Black students, didn't change. I mean, it was very, very small, right? Slight adjustment that might be due to just unenrollment or enrollment into the system. But then you think about students identified as economically disadvantaged, and just as a system, you know, over the course of the year, we work to get that information from our families, and then that ultimately allows us to determine which students are identified as economically disadvantaged. So you would expect the number to increase, but one of the things that was kind of a aha for me was the number increased pretty significantly, which actually I think reinforces the strength of the data that we're seeing. Like it's even maybe better than we thought is a way to maybe describe it. But I think it's just a system and acknowledging that there are going to be some adjustments, but we can speak to each one of them. But in every case that we found, the data is validated just because of the student movement and kind of reinforces the progress that we're seeing. And so we'll continue to make adjustments, but just wanted to make that point. And you do see some of that in the appendix, but thought it was a great adjustment since just a month ago when we got that feedback from the board.
Thank you for that. Okay, any questions from anyone? I know this is back to back with our last report, so we've spent a lot of time with this data. If you feel like your question has been asked and answered,
yes,
just go down the row. Yes. All right, thank you. Okay, thank you so much. And I just want to flag that I had the opportunity. I know we were invited to go to Barrington to see some of this in action, and talking about the student ownership. There was a lot of conversation about student ownership and that release that you're talking about, and to see that in action in the classroom as a non-educator, and to see people putting that into practice was really powerful to see. So I'm learning a lot from hearing from you, and it's exciting to kind of see what that looks like in the classroom and come back and then see it reflected in the data that we have. And I do really appreciate that appendix showing campus by campus beginning of year to middle year. That to me is really valuable to see. I know you've done a lot of work to make sure the trends are real, but when I see it at virtually every campus, growth, and often dramatic growth in that number that's dropping as it should be, I think that's really valuable to me to understand the story we're telling as well. So thank you. Thank you for that. All right, at this point, does anyone care to move to accept the report?
So moved.
Okay, second?
Second.
All right, any discussion? All right, having a motion by Secretary Foster, a second by Vice President Gonzalez. All in favor, raise your right hand. And the motion passes by all on the dais. Thank you. All right, so we are now finished with our open meeting. We'll recess our open meeting at 8:00 p.m. and move to our executive session pursuant to Texas Government Code Sections 551.074, 551.072, 551.073, 551.087, 551.076, 551.0821, and 551.071. When we finish with our executive session, we will briefly return to the open session to formally adjourn the meeting, and the adjournment will be recorded and included in all replays of tonight's meeting. There's no action tonight after our executive session. And thank you for joining us, and have a good evening. And happy spring break, almost. After tomorrow, happy spring break. Yes. Okay, the meeting is reconvened at 11:15 p.m., the open meeting. Do I have a motion to adjourn?
So moved.
The meeting is adjourned at 11:15 p.m.